fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren. 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren, Mr. David Baseballs Martino.
I'm still baseball, huh?
Yeah. I'm working on the ratings. Next week you'll be someone different. But
Okay.
Baseball is very, very good.
Okay. I'm in spring training.
Spring training, that's right.
Yeah.
So we can trend. We can put hashtag baseball.
Hashtag baseball,
tune
hashtag
in.
spring training,
Yeah.
hashtag spring break.
Hashtag Illuminati.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah,
that'll get us a lot of listens.
Yeah. They'll be mad later when they find out. Yeah. Well, maybe our guest is part of the Illuminati. You never know.
Could be.
Right? I've heard stories. So now our guest has a new book out called Every Missing Girl. It's a Kendall Beck thriller, and it's book 2. So our guest is Leanne Kale Sparks. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. And if I were part of the Illuminati, I could not tell you. So
Right. Well, let's see. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
no, I did not. Sorry,
No?
I don't like the NFL.
Well, yeah, but I thought, because I hear that, the halftime show, Rihanna gave the Illuminati signal. That's the rumor, right?
Oh.
So I'm thinking,
See, I'm always out of the loop.
what are you doing? See, you got to get into this,
I
right?
didn't get the email.
Yeah. Obviously, you're on the low-ranking Illuminati.
Well, of course. That's
You're
just
not like-
a known. That's just a known.
You're not Rihanna or Beyonce, who's up high. Come on, you got to
true.
do something to get up there. So
Can't carry a tune. That's probably why.
just fake it. Come on, there's auto-tune these days.
Auto-tune,
You don't need to be.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to see me in any of those outfits. I can tell you that. So.
Well, I hear Milli Vanilli are looking for work. Right.
There you go.
So you get them out there dancing with the shoes, and then you put someone else's voice. And
I think there's only one left.
There's only one. Oh, see, there's a slot. There's a slot open.
I don't know which one it is, though. I can't
Well,
remember.
that's all you need. You see, you could be Millie or Vanilli.
I could pick it.
Could you imagine? Well, so here we go. You've decided to write another book. So you've got this Kendall Beck is your main character, obviously. I always try to figure this out. Is it the story itself, or is it actually a crime that you just throw him into? You know what I mean? Like, what's the center of it?
Yeah. On this one, so the first book was mainly about her best friend missing. So it wasn't really about the FBI side of things so much. There was a little bit of her investigating, but the main theme was her best friend being kidnapped. So in this book, I kind of wanted to highlight more of what Kendall does in the FBI and the Crimes Against Children unit. And I also wanted to bring her unofficial sidekick, Adam Taylor, who's a Denver police detective, a little bit more to the forefront. So it's his niece who is kidnapped or is missing. We don't know if she's kidnapped or run away. So she's just missing. So it kind of highlights what Kendall does. She's put into a little bit of a precarious situation because she knows Adam. She's become close to his family. And so she knows the niece, Frankie. So it's kind of a hard line where she's trying to remain professional and do her job the best she can. But also, she knows this person, so that's pulling at her heartstrings a bit. And she's also trying to keep Adam in check, too. So he's not going off the deep end. He has his own stuff he has to do because obviously he's not allowed to investigate this crime. So I thought it was a really good way in book 2 to kind of highlight Kendall and also let everybody get to know Adam and his family a little bit more. So it worked out well.
So you expand it more on Adam's character in this book for sure.
No, it's really actually more Kendall. Well, it's about 50-50. So Adam is more, it's just, you get to know his personality more, whereas maybe you didn't so much in the first book. And I think that's true for both characters. I think, as you go on in the series, you get to know the characters better. But it is still mainly Kendall and how she's reacting to all of this. Her investigation, there's another dual investigation going on because the beginning of the book opens where there's a double homicide at a convenience store that Adam is investigating, and there's a girl that is there that one of the guys that died has brought this little girl there, and she happens to be a girl who's been missing for a few months. So Kendall and Adam are working together on that case, and then Frankie goes missing, and so she's kind of trying to keep track of both of these, trying to keep Adam in check a little bit. He wants to, of course, be involved in the investigation with his niece, but he can't really be officially involved, so he's doing it a little bit, but he still has to do his job as a detective. So I definitely like to show where, a lot of times in books you get these characters who it's one main investigation and that's all they do. And so I kind of like to show that there's other stuff that has to go on. You still have other things going on, but I also like to weave them together and kind of see where they intersect.
Yeah. Well, and it's realistic that way because it's not too often that a cop would just be on one case or FBI or anything like that. How much do you do to research to make it realistic? Like, do you go hang out at the cop shop and try to find out information, or do you get arrested on purpose or something and go undercover?
I tried that, but it's weird because they don't give you any more information when you're arrested than if you just go and ask. So that was kind of a bust, and now I have a felony conviction. So that doesn't really work. But, not really. But I was lucky enough early in writing to have a contact in the FBI who put me in contact with people that worked in this specific unit, the Crimes Against Children unit. So I did learn a lot from them about how they approach things. I got to learn about how difficult it is for them, which was probably the best information I could have got. Yeah, I like having the background of how the FBI does certain things, what their procedures are, all of the stories that go along with how they find these people, these traffickers and things like that. But it's really how it affects the characters or affects them personally that I want to be able to bring into my characters, because I think that's half of it. I mean, it's a really hard position to be in day after day after day, just seeing these young girls and boys and just being trafficked and the things that they have to do. And it's just really the worst of society has happened, and these things are happening to children. So I think it's like a double whammy. It's bad enough to have to see things that law enforcement have to see on a daily basis, but when you see it every day and it's children, I think it takes an especially hard toll on someone. So I like to be able to do that. So yeah, I had early research into this, and now it's just I do have some contacts in the police departments in Colorado, so that helps a lot. I'm from Colorado, so that helps a lot. But yeah, so the research is, that's the fun part for me. I also have a lot of author friends that, write the same stuff, so we bounce things around in our little groups. And then, of course, Writers Police Academy is always a fabulous time to go and learn about law enforcement and things like that.
I'm wondering how much literary license you take when it comes to taking all this research in and keeping things close to what the FBI and other forms of law enforcement do in situations like these, or are you able to keep it kind of close to the way the procedures are done to keep up the suspense within a novel?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing because you want to be as true to what happens as possible. But, as I said, sometimes in law enforcement, especially in law and practicing law, going to court and things, there's stuff that happens that's just boring. And so it's a fine line to walk to want to be as close to reality as possible, but you don't want to be boring. And then there's also the times where you know that, yeah, this isn't right, but I've got to fudge it for the story's sake. And you will inevitably get called out on it, but, you know, sometimes a book is still an escape from reality. You know, if I'm writing it real life, then it's not, I'm not writing a memoir, so I don't know exactly, you know, how this stuff works and stuff. So I'm writing fiction, and people that read it are trying to escape from reality, for whatever reason. And so they don't want to read boring stuff, you know, so you have to kind of weigh out what you can make as close to reality as possible, and where you need to just kind of fudge it a little bit. And sometimes you even have to, if I write something and I send it off to one of my law enforcement buddies, and they go, I say, is this correct? And they go, well, you kind of just make it up as you go, you know, and they kind of give me little indications of, I can't tell you that. And so, you know, go with your gut kind of thing. And so, there's that too. So you know that kind of can touch on some areas. Yeah, I think it's a fine line that we all kind of tread on what we want to go. And I don't like to go into, I know that I write books about horrible things happening to children, but there's a line to be crossed that I will never cross, and that's any type of description of anything happening to a child. Not ever going to happen. It's just that's a bridge too far for me, and I couldn't do that. So that's some of the stuff, part of reality of that situation that I never will write about.
Right. Well, you don't need to go that far, in a sense. Especially if you're, it sounds to me like you're focusing on the characters, the people that are involved in solving and helping out in these crimes, and you're kind of showing them as real people. And I think that's the magic touch, because a lot of police books in this category will miss out on showing them as just people and making mistakes and being human. They show them as all Superman. You know, they're all,
yeah,
you know, they're all Bruce Willis and tough and can do it.
Exactly. And I think that what I like about my characters is, yeah, Kendall is a total badass, and that's really fun to write. But she's also a hothead, which gets her in trouble in her job as an FBI agent sometimes. And she has her own flaws, and all of the characters have their own flaws. And so I think that that's also based in reality, because you always, whenever you have people working together and things like that, everybody comes with their own personalities and their own flaws, and everybody just kind of has to figure out how to work within everybody else's, you know, idiosyncrasies, and, you know, be able to work together. I do have a lot of sarcasm and what may be considered off-color jokes, like inappropriate outside of law enforcement, but I believe that that's really how they act, you know, especially in the situation where there's lots of horrible things that they see. And so sometimes the way they release stress and what they've been under is, you know, just to be a bit sarcastic, be a bit things that they wouldn't say maybe out in the general public when they're trying to be professional. So I like to make sure that that's all added into, because I think that also shows the characters and what they're going through.
Yeah, that's why I'm the way I am.
Gallows humor.
You're off color. You don't do that stuff out in public? I didn't realize that.
No,
she knows you too well, Al.
I'm no way. I'm so polite, old-fashioned, and none of that bad stuff comes out of this boy. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's all good values here. For me, I'm thinking that you like writing the special agent Kendall, and I have to wonder what it is that you get out of writing that character. Like, how does this work for you? Is this, you sort of have, I guess it sounds like you have fun putting yourself in that place and doing a lot of the things that she does, because you don't do that in your life. So it's kind of a way of experimenting in a sort of, you know, in jobs and areas that you wouldn't do normally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that all writers kind of live vicariously through their characters. on some level. And, Kendall is just a fun person to write because of her own personality. And, she's had, her fiance died years before. And so she's pretty much set that she's not going to get married and have relationships. She's, romantic relationships. She works with children. So she doesn't want to have any children. So that's totally, completely opposite of me. I'm married and I have, 4 kids and a husband. And so that's kind of fun to kind of live life vicariously through her. So yeah, she's a lot of fun. Plus, it's great fun to see what situations you can put her in and figure out what she's going to do. So that's always a fun challenge to see how she's going to react. And, it's a great thing when you're writing and then all of a sudden something clicks and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Let's see if we can investigate that avenue a little bit and see if we can get her into a little bit of a precarious situation this way and how she gets herself out.
So what's your experience with your character, with all of them, but Kendall, of course, being one of your main characters here. How do you experience her?
I kind of visualize her a lot, and really she just kind of, I don't know that she actually talks to me. There's just like a feeling that I get when I write her of how would she feel about this. And so I know that I've hit on it when it starts all, just coming out faster than I can write it. So I think that that's kind of the relationship I have with her, is that there's this kind of, when I know it's clicking and when I know it's going in the right direction, then that's kind of our way of communicating. This is her personality. This is how she would handle things and things like that. So I think, and I hope that that's what comes out, is that, this is a real authentic type person, a character that, and I just love writing.
I think I saw a movie like that once where the woman kept waking up in strange rooms, and not knowing how she got there, and
that would be creepy. That hasn't happened to me yet, so Kendall hasn't put me anywhere weird, so that's good.
Well, does Kendall, when you kind of have this feeling about her, and when you're writing and you're creating the story, does she ever surprise you? Does she kind of, I guess, go off the rails and take the plot with her, or do you feel more in control of that situation?
I think if I'm going off the rails, it's mostly me going off the rails, and maybe that's when the whole not really clicking and me trying to force it somewhere. That's where I think where her character comes back and is like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. I do love getting her into a lot of scraps. I think that there's a huge twist at the end that it did hit me as I was writing it. And I was like, whoa, that's not the way I thought this was going to end. And I'm a plotter, so I know kind of where I'm going, and that helps me, even though I kind of let the characters take me where they want to go. But if I get into a point where I've written myself into a corner, or I'm stuck and I don't know where to go from here, I can always go back to my outline and kind of figure things out and back myself out and maybe go a different direction. So that's a lot of fun to do. But like I said, as I wrote the ending of this book, I was just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. And I don't know if this is allowed. Am I allowed to do this? And my editor was like, ooh, I don't know. And she's like, but okay, we're going to see how this goes, because it's a big, big twist at the end. So, and it took me completely by surprise. And so I kind of, in my own way, I feel like, Kendall's over on the sidelines, cheering and yay, she did it. So it was a lot of fun. Like I said, once you hit something and it's going to be good, you're like, ooh, that's great. I like that.
Do you drink a lot?
I do drink a lot. I'm very much into day drinking. That's why, I think God made mimosas and things like that. So yeah. I'm totally on board with that.
I kind of thought there was something a little bit, a little slurring.
I'd like to say that's what it was, but it's really, I was weird as a child, so.
Yeah, Prozac. Take your warning. Well, so what goes on when you're a writer that you're writing kind of this is kind of dark material. I mean, there's a sarcastic point to it, but it is kind of, it's not the good things that happen in life necessarily.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of the cases are they're kind of the unfortunate things that humans do. Did you know as a kid, were you like writing this kind of story when you were young, or did it just come out of nowhere? Like where does this all how did this happen?
Yeah, no, I wasn't some closet, serial killer that's just waiting to emerge. I don't know that I actually wrote stories when I was young. It was mostly like stick figure drawings. I'd make up, these stories, and that's how I would write some of it, and then most of it was like, drawings I can't draw, so they're all basically stick figures and stuff. I don't think that I hate to say that it's a love of writing this, but it's definitely a deep interest of mine. I guess that mostly came after I graduated from law school and started working in law, and I worked in criminal defense. And so, I got to know a lot of people in law enforcement. I got to know a lot of people that were criminals. And just, that whole experience. So when I started writing, it just kind of seemed natural to me to want to write about that kind of stuff that I saw, happening. But I think that it just keeps growing on itself. The more, you write a book and it's like I said, this ending is a big, oh my God moment. So the next thing I write, I'm going to be thinking, well, I got to do something a little bit better than that. I got to do something bigger than that. And so, delving into the criminal mind is a scary thing to do. But being in fiction, you can kind of make stuff up. Like, you can put characters into situations and hope that that's not what really is happening in real life, but usually it is. But yeah, so I don't think it really came about writing this dark and serious stuff until I was much older and in a profession that dealt with it.
So it kind of relates to some of your work, and maybe in a way it I guess because it's fiction, you can make things happen. You can more resolution, I guess, or resolving. Because did you feel good about the justice system? And I don't mean that, I'm not trying to be negative, but I just mean, do you feel like it's a pretty good system and sort of...
I think it's the best system that you can have, because you can't get justice for everyone. It's impossible. There's just no way to get justice for everyone. So justice is for the majority. And so you try and work within those. And I got a lot of flack for being in criminal defense. And what I try to get people to understand is the state is the one that has to prove, because it's a heavy thing when you're going to take somebody's liberty from them and their rights from them and put them into a prison. That's big. That's, and so they should be the ones that are responsible for proving that this person did what they say they did. But they also have all the resources on their side. So criminal defense is not necessarily a defense attorney going, my client is, did not do this. It's more of I'm representing this person so that he doesn't get railroaded by the justice system. So you have to have that, because all the training and all the expertise and all the labs and investigation and things like that are on the state side or the government side of the prosecuting side of the case. And typically people, you go into court, you don't know what's going on. You have to know. And so you have to have somebody there to be an advocate for you, to make sure that things are running the way they are, and to get your defense out. So there's my soapbox.
You like Perry Mason
for criminal
right?
defense attorneys. Yeah, I did. That was probably my first. I used to go to North Carolina and stay with my grandmother over summers, and she would watch Perry Mason every day at noon, and I would watch it with her. And I think that was my first love of law was right there. So it was a no-brainer that I'd go into criminal defense.
Well, how was it going from, the type of writing that you do in criminal law, criminal defense, to creative writing? Was that like a big transition?
Oh yeah. Legal writing is people would say that criminal defense attorneys make a lot of stuff up, and so it's not that hard to to do, and they write the fantastical defenses and things. But yeah, it's a different kind of writing. You know, there's a lot of rules and procedures and stuff that you have to follow in legal writing. So it was very freeing to begin to write fiction because it's wide open. So and you get to manipulate both sides of the story. So that's nice, because I don't always think that the defense side is the right side. I mean, I am typically pro-defense. I am a very big advocate for the Innocence Project. I think that is a great organization, and they do excellent work. But I also can see on law enforcement side, you know, you have to have laws, and you have to make people accountable for their actions. And I like being able to write from both sides.
Yeah, we have to keep Dave in line.
Yes, that is true.
Troublemaker.
Yeah.
That's right. He's always into trouble. So, where's your influences when you come to, let's say, detectives and is there any real life, let's say, defense attorneys or prosecutors or people out there that you sort of admire?
No.
No. Well, I mean, I know that.
I mean, well, there's not anybody I mean, I think that they all do really good work. I think that it's a hard job on both sides. Being in law enforcement, and you know, it can sometimes be a thankless job, and you know, there's a tendency these days to think that law enforcement just wants to find somebody and make them guilty and not really investigate. And I think you have to be really careful about thinking that all law enforcement is like that. But does it happen? Yes. So there's a balance between the two. But I really do. I admire both sides a lot. And that's why I like to write about it. I haven't really done so much in the legal defense side of it yet, but I imagine that'll come down the road somewhere. So right now I'm intrigued with the law enforcement side, the investigating side of it right now. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, I think all you can really do is show the human side of whoever's in law enforcement, whether they're prosecution or defense, because people got to realize that they're just humans. So there's going to be good ones, bad ones, people that make mistakes, people that don't. There's all that mixes in all of that, and people have to realize that, and rather than just lumping them all in, right? What do you think that is portrayed really well? Do you think like the legal system, like law enforcement? Do you think, because when I watch shows from the '60s, they made everybody, it was black and white, it was good and bad, and Perry Mason was great all over. You know what I mean? Like they had these roles, and they kept to them. Nowadays, do you think that do you like watching, I don't know, any of the series like CSI or detective things or Blue Bloods or any of that sort of stuff? Does any of that ring true to you, and you kind of like the way they portray it, or do you think that it's very misleading?
I haven't really watched many shows I haven't watched any like Blue Bloods. I haven't watched CSI in years. I like documentaries and things of that nature a lot. But I think, it's like we said, there's good and bad. So it naturally, when you have a television series that is slanted one way, then they're going to make them look better. But I think it's getting better now, like you said, back in, Perry Mason and even into the 70s and 80s, you didn't really see that negative side of law enforcement in law enforcement when it was a pro law enforcement type show. I think that they're being more realistic now and showing that there are bad apples and how this can come about. And so I think it does tend to get more realistic. I have watched Bosch, because that's amazing. So I think that if you ever want to see somebody that's got, who is a hero, but also got some massive flaws, then you've got Bosch pretty well. I mean, I really do enjoy that series, even the new spin-off series. But yeah, I think that they are getting more realistic. There's always a fear that in real life that there's things that happen within investigations and stuff that you hope would not, like tunnel vision of investigators, of making the evidence fit the facts, instead of following where the evidence is leading them in an investigation. Do I think it's as prevalent as is brought out on some television shows? Probably not. But it's like anything that looks like it's going to be something of public interest that is going to enrage people, especially in this day and age with social media. I think that they're going to hype that more. So I think that it's like when I write Kendall and when I write crimes against children, yeah, that's a horrible thing. But missing children typically is the ones that are trafficked or kidnapped and things like that, probably still only make up between 1% and 5% of all missing children. The other 95% are runaways or just they missing for a while and they come back, things like that, family dynamics and stuff. So I think that it's important not to think that this is it is a huge problem, but it's not like every missing child has been trafficked or things like that. I think that the media and definitely television shows and stuff, they tend to want to hype things up and make them look bigger than they maybe are. So, but it helps in my writing to make it that way.
That's our job.
Yeah.
It's our job to scare you.
Nasty people.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, I know.
Terrible, awful. Put us down, all of us. Are you going to go into a different field ever? Do you think you'd write a different type of book, like a comedy, or do you think you're ever going to try something something different?
The only thing that I've really actually been interested in is actually your side of the writing table, and that is maybe some true crime. There's a subject that I'm that's really grabbed me and has I've held on to it, and that is false confessions, especially in minors. And I would love to write a book about that. So, but I haven't really sat down and ever worked through it, but there are a couple of cases that I think warrant a closer look at that than just, where interrogation techniques, I think, can be very brutal and unfair. And I think there needs to be laws and rules that are put into place to protect, especially minors that are being interrogated, but just anybody that's in interrogation. You shouldn't have to be interrogated for 12 to 18 hours because anybody at that point is going to confess because they just want to get out of there. Because you're in a tiny little room, and you're not allowed to leave. Well, sometimes but it's intimidating, and at some point your brain just says, well, maybe I did do this, and so if I just say I did this, then I can get out of here, and then I'll fix it. And by then you've confessed to something, and it's really hard to take that back. It's really difficult to walk that back. So I really think that there's some rules that should be in place to protect people from those types of interrogations.
Yeah, I've touched off on it in a few books, and I've had to deal with, and it is surprising how many false confessions there are. People that just confess, whether it's their own mental capacity, or whether they were scared into it, or tricked into it, or sometimes it just happens. It's surprising when you go through that, and also some of the rules, where minors can be interrogated without parents, and police can lie to them.
That is a huge one that I hate, is that they can lie about what they have, because that's just not fair. And in fact, I really like the way the UK has handled it, because they had so many false confessions because their system was much like the US system of interrogations, where there's basically no rules, but they implemented rules where you're not allowed to lie. You have 24 hours, but you have to, I think it's 2 hours at a time that you can interrogate. And then you have to have breaks and things like that. So it's more, it's not such a pressure cooker of we're going to get you to confess to this because we know. And their false confessions drop down to nearly zero. I mean, that's huge. And so why I don't understand law enforcement who says, well, we need these because, people lie and things like that. Well, there's other ways of getting a confession. And if you're going to get a false confession, then you're putting the wrong person away. And the person that actually did this is still out there. So it kind of defeats the purpose. So
yeah, it's a real interesting category. And, like you said, the Innocence Project and people, there's groups out there, but yeah, it's pretty, it's a big deal, and it would be nice if it got better, but we'll see. Who knows? Yeah, you'll do it. You're gonna fix it.
I'll do it.
That's right.
I'm gonna fix it. That's my next. That's my next career.
Damn it!
Fix it.
I'm fixing it. Damn it! Move over.
I'm fixing it. Damn it.
No, but that's an interesting field, and I know Steve Michaud did a thing on that, and I've seen a few things on, and I've talked to a lot of them when I did a version of the Making the Murderer case, and how that, but it's brutal. But the sad thing is, so much of that was doctored in the video, in that docu series, that they misled a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's terrible. And when Conviction comes out this summer, they actually are going to show all of the, I have all the transcripts, and I had all the, and you watch all the video that wasn't put on YouTube and all that stuff. Man, you're going to be shocked at what went on. And there was times too where they actually just clipped answers and put them in when they didn't have them. So they actually lied.
Oh, wow.
There was lies going on. So the Conviction movie made by Sean Reck, and Chris Hansen, but it's going to shock a lot of people, because I hope so. I'm glad in a way, because I wrote about that and I covered part of that, but they're going to show the whole thing to people, because when you actually see it and hear what really went on, you're going to be. I still believe totally in that minors. There should be someone assigned, period. If the parent doesn't want to go in the room, then they put someone else in there from the court. Just that's what they do in the UK now, and even Canada now, where now they're starting to stick in a guide to sit there, so that there's someone else there in the room, and it makes a big difference as compared to when they're a minor, and especially when they're slow.
Yeah,
you just need that, period. So that is without
I can't wait.
Without question. But there's a lot of things about the case that they made up in the docu-series, and it's really depressing. I'm more depressed about it because of knowing that they did. Because whenever you get someone that actually creates and fakes evidence and presents it, you can't trust anything they do then.
Yep.
It to me, that writes them off, whatever their reason, whatever the purpose. But once you do that, how can you really trust anything that they say then at that point? So, I'm hard line on that.
It is a credibility thing.
Yeah, I'm hard line on that. I can't go back and go, well, we forgive you. And that. It's like, no, you did this and you did it on purpose. You went out of the way to do something that you shouldn't have done.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's important for them, like you said, to have somebody in the room with them, because, and I never understand why law enforcement doesn't want to, because so many times now confessions can be pulled because they didn't have somebody in the room. Even though, it's permitted and stuff, you start, any good defense attorney is going to, argue that they didn't have somebody and they bullied him and things like that. So it really does protect law enforcement and the case as much as it protects the defendant. And it also is a form of checks and balances too. So, you keep your law enforcement in check. And I don't think that necessarily they're bad people. I think that it's an adrenaline thing, and you want to solve this and you think you know where it's going. And so you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually you get what you want. But is it real? Is it true? That there's a lot to be considered there. And so if you just do it right in the first place, then it's more of a okay, this is more of a certainty than a big question mark.
Well, you're dealing with humans.
Yeah.
Emotions, feelings, all that kind of interferes a lot. That's why Dave should be doing it.
Still not human?
He's not human. And he has no feelings.
Yes.
He's feeling.
That's right.
So where to next? What's next? Are you got anything coming up next? Or are you going to take a break now for a while? Are you going to go out fishing or what?
There's stuff ruminating in my head. I'm not really sure. It's kind of all muddled and stuff. So I need to get my muse kind of in order and stop her running around crazy, and see what I can come up with. But yeah, there's always stories kicking around in there. Just
got to get your. Yeah.
I love writing, so I can't imagine not writing. So yeah, there's always stories coming down the.
Just got to get your liquor cabinet full stocked, and then.
I do. That's what my husband's job is. Yeah. That's his job.
Where's my husband? No, that's. Well, so now social media. Like, do you want people to find you on social media, and do you have website? Give out your information and how people find Leanne.
I am all over social media. I'm on Facebook. I am on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. I do have a website, www.leannekalesparks.com. And on there, you can find information about me. You can find my books and pick any outlet you want to buy them from. There's links there. And you get to see a bunch of cute dog pics. So I have all my dogs, past and present, and grand dogs up there. So, if nothing else, you can go and look at the dogs.
There you go. You get it all. You go to, it's a one-stop shop. This is just it.
Yeah.
But we have to warn people, of course, because this is like nail-biting drama, as it's called. So you have to put a health warning. You're going to bite your nails off if you read this.
Yeah, right. Well, I have, at the very least, you're going to probably need some tissues, and just be ready for a big surprise at the end. I think there's a lot of twists and turns throughout it, which is why I like to have a couple of things going on, because I think that creates a lot more tension, and then it's a lot more fun to weave those things together. And I think the readers have a lot of fun trying to figure it out, and even if they figure it out or they don't, I think it's fun for them. So I hope it's a fun ride for everybody.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. People will love it. Now the book we're talking about, Every Missing Girl, and it's a Kendall Beck thriller, book 2. The author's been our guest, Leanne Kale Sparks. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Leanne.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Yeah. Good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.